Hey gang, today I want to talk about what is the highest achievement of a martial artist. Okay? Now, most people might say that the highest achievement of a martial artist is when they know how to perform their martial art physically really well. Okay? They can do the techniques really well, they can protect themselves really well physically. Okay? But I beg to differ, right? I like to submit to you that the highest level of martial arts is when you have mastered self control. Not that you are aware of self control or that you know about self control, right? Or that you might understand self control, right? No, that you have mastered self control because that would be the highest achievement of any martial artist, okay? Now, what is self control? Okay, and but let's talk about what is self control and what isn't self control, right? Okay, number one, self control does not come from willpower. Okay, you don't put yourself in a position, right, that may cause you to test your self control, right? That's not what self control is. Self control actually comes from acquiring knowledge, right? Specific knowledge or specified knowledge, right? So, so in our Successful Kids program and in our Successful Adult program, along with our Jiu-Jitsu program, we have a program that transforms the way a person is thinking, because that's what's going to lead us to becoming a black belt. Okay, is because why most people fail to become black belts is not because they don't have the capacity, and it's not because they don't have the ability. The reason why they don't make it to black belt is because they talk themselves out of it. They lack the self control to what? To think positive. They went ahead and they thought negative. So whenever something went wrong, or whenever there was a challenge, or whenever something happened in their life and they had storms in their life, they lacked the self control to stay focused on the positive aspects of life. Okay? So just explain to you what self control is, right? Okay? But remember, self control doesn't come from willpower, it comes from knowledge. So therefore, you have to acquire the knowledge, and that doesn't just come to you just because you are practicing martial arts physically. There has to be a mental aspect to your martial art program. Okay? So self control, right, comes from knowledge. Okay? So what type of knowledge creates self control? The knowledge that creates self control are when you realize the value of a principle. Now, what is a principle? A principle is something that doesn't change. It doesn't matter who does it, it doesn't discriminate, it does exactly what the principle says. Okay? Now, here's a principle that if everybody used it, it would probably minimize a lot of conflict. Okay? Now, let's talk about conflict. Okay? Now, we live in a world where it's a social world. We socialize. Okay? So one of the things that we all need to realize, because again, again, right? Self control comes from knowledge. So I'm sharing some knowledge with you, give you some love. Okay? So what's happening here is this: when we have relationships with other people, no matter what it is, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a job member, or maybe someone you work with, or I don't know, as an acquaintance or anyone you meet on the street, right? Relationships create conflict. Why? Because every one of us is different. We all have a different view of life. So instead of us getting mad and upset, right, and using, if you're a martial artist, using your martial arts to stop conflict physically, we should learn to realize that not everybody sees life the same way that we do. And that we should basically do what? Here's the principle. We should what? Listen more, right? And talk less. So if we listen more and we talk less and we have empathy and listen to what the other person is saying instead of trying, or because this is what happens. Most people, when they're not listening to what the person's saying, they're listening to what they think the person is saying that is wrong. So they're like, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong. They're not even listening to the person, right? So what I would submit to you is that when we do listen to a person, want to be listened to see why they're saying what they're saying, right? And be open and have some empathy on to why they're saying what they're saying. So we want to be slow to speak and listen 3 times or 4 times more than we speak, right? That will minimize a lot of conflict, okay? The second thing is that when somebody does say something to you that may be out of anger, a soft answer, right, or a soft response to this person, right, will turn away wrath, right? A soft answer, right? But guess what? We have to practice it, okay? But guess what? This is what creates self-control. Because if you can do these things, if you can talk less, listen more, and when somebody says something to you that you didn't like and you gave a soft response, you will be practicing self-control. Because your self-control is not coming from willpower, it's coming from knowledge. So some people might say, you know what? Some people might say this, right? Hey, you know what? Hey, look, this person's been driving me crazy all week, so I had to tell him on Friday. I had to give him a piece of my mind because that was them practicing willpower. But we don't want to be practicing willpower. We want to be practicing a principle, and when we practice a principle, we can do it for the rest of our life. Okay. So remember, guys, the highest order of a martial artist is self-control. Now, yes, we still need to practice martial arts, because why? Because other people lack self-control. And even when we do talk to them, they may still want to attack us physically. But we don't want to add to the problem. We want to solve the problem, okay? And that's the reason why my programs have transformational information with it that not only transforms a person physically, but it transforms them mentally. So we do get true black belts. And not just black belts who know how to punch and kick, but black belts who know how to follow principles and become successful in all areas of their life. Okay? So if you like the video, smash the subscribe button. All right? And if you have any comments, or if you like what I said, if you didn't like what I said, leave comments below. And I'll see you